Welcome back into NBA Stock Watch post trade deadline edition. And like I said in the first episode with Adam, we're going to rotate out here and bring in his other co-host from Running with the Bulls, Josh Sklare. Josh, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. I'm very happy to be on. Happy to talk some NBA. Always happy to talk some NBA. It's a very exciting time post trade deadline. We're coming down to the wire here for the NBA season. We got about 2 months to go. We got some Jason Tatum news recently. A lot of good stuff going on, but we're talking post trade deadline here, and that's what we're here to focus on. So let's get to it.
Exactly. And I can't not have you not talk about the Bulls being one of the co-hosts of your podcast here. So let's start out with one of the newest Bulls acquisitions here, Anfernee Simons. And these last 2 games, he's just been balling out here. He showed his range from 3, and he's a former first-round pick, already scoring double figures in these first 2 games as a Bull too.
Yeah, I've seen what Anfernee Simons can do as a Portland Trailblazer. Not as much as a Boston Celtic because he's more of a role player as a Celtic, but we've seen what he can provide as a scorer. He's been doing this for quite a while. This season, not, like I said, not as much, but the year before when he was in Portland, his stats speak for themselves. He was averaging 19 and 5. The year before that, 22 and a half and 5.5. So, he's a known scorer. Right now for the Bulls, he's averaging 20 and 5, which is about his sweet spot. That's about what Kobe White would give you about last year. Now, he wasn't giving you quite that this year, but, very similar to Kobe White. Anfernee Simons, very streaky shooter. When he's on, he's on. And I just feel like he's going to be the Bulls' main scorer going forward as the season progresses, as we get towards the end of the season, because they're going to need guys to step into those roles. And the question will also become, when Josh Giddey comes back, how they handle Anfernee Simons, Colin Sexton, and Josh Giddey getting the ball, sharing the sugar, and being able to, get enough scoring between those 3 guys. I'm sure they'll be able to figure it out. It's going to be tricky, but I think overall they'll be okay. But I would say his stock is definitely up because he's on a team where they're going to ask him to do a lot. So that's going to automatically, build your stock up. And I think that we're going to see more from Anfernee Simons. We're going to see him scoring about that 18 to 20 range, I think, relatively consistently as a Chicago Bull going forward, at least until his contract expires at the end of the season. I don't expect him to be back with the Bulls. I don't think that that's part of their plan. But for now, let's enjoy what he does for the Bulls, and that'll be scoring a lot of points.
Averaging 14.5 points per game before coming to the Bulls, and then you see him do what he's done, and you're happy probably as a Bulls fan, I would say.
Absolutely. And this is what you want as a Bulls fan. You want a player who's a known scorer to be scoring and putting up points. And that's exactly what he's done. He's providing what he does in his role. And, as long as you're providing in a way that, helps the Bulls win a game, if they're going to win a game or not, the point is he's stepping into his role very nicely, and he has contributed in a very, very nice way. And that's what the Bulls need right now. They just need guys who can put the ball in the hoop. Now, the defense has struggled quite a bit. He's not known as a great defensive player, but it's not what they're asking him to do. They're asking him to put the ball in the basket, and that's what he's doing right now.
Let's talk about another new Bull, Guerschon Yabusele, the Frenchman. What have you seen from him? He came in and had double-double the first game as a Bull with the Nuggets.
I'm very impressed. Yabusele, a lot of people don't know his story. He actually was out of the league he played for Boston his first 2 seasons. And then from 2019 to 2024, he was not in the NBA. He got his chance to come back in the NBA because he played so well for France in the Olympics. And that was the main reason that he came back in the league. And then he played very well for Philadelphia last year. He was very impressive. And he's doing very similar to what he did, in Philly. He started for the Chicago Bulls. He's played about 27 minutes a game for the Bulls. And he's been providing exactly, about what I expected. Now, he's not shooting very well. He's not the best shooter. But, it's okay. He's still doing what we need him to do. I think he's shooting a too many threes. I think that's part of the issue. He's shooting 9 shots a game for the Bulls and 6.3 or 3-pointers. That's way off his average. Normally, he doesn't shoot that many. But, it is what it is. He's, scoring about 10 points per game, 5 rebounds. And he's a very physical player, and he's been providing good depth for the Bulls, who have struggled, recently because of injuries. And he stepped into that role as a big man and really contributed very, very nicely. It's just the thing is with the Bulls right now, and I think this is what Bulls fans need to understand, and I think that they're a little frustrated, so let me just point this out. The Bulls are not trying to win many games right now, and that's okay. They understand that they tried their very best to rebuild this team, retool this team, make it younger, and do what they can to try and get in the play and maybe get in the playoffs and see what they can do. It didn't work, and they realized that, so they're hitting the reset button. So you're seeing some guys who may not be there the next year. Yabusele is not going to be a Chicago Bull next year either, most likely. What you're seeing is a guy, though, who could get another contract in the NBA. Maybe he'll get a big contract overseas. Who knows? But what we're seeing is a guy who really hustles and stepped into his role very nicely and is providing, solid minutes for the Bulls in a role that they need him in. And that's what you're seeing right now.
And with 10 guards on the roster, you need someone to play a forward or center position.
Absolutely. And, I understand Bulls fans' frustrations. Believe me, I have been as a fan who is a former season ticket holder, went to so many games, saw Derrick Rose, saw the Ben Gordons, the Andres Nociones, all these great names. I'll drop them all. Dalibor Bacaric. Want me to drop names from back in the day? I'll drop them.
Omer Sheik, yeah.
Omer Sheik, there you go. But, this is a time where Bulls fans are just going to have to get used to a little mediocrity, unfortunately, just for these last few months. And then who knows what next season will bring. But I really think, this is an opportunity to see some new faces and see them contribute to the Bulls. Now, one thing I will say is, you're going to see, is Jalen Smith going to be the starting center next year? That remains to be seen right now. But it's a very strong possibility that your starting center is still on this team. He's just injured right now. And Yabusele could come back as a Bull and be the backup center because they don't really have a backup center. Zach Collins very well may walk in free agency. So you're seeing a lot of what could be. I'm not sure if I don't think Anfernee Simons, like I said, don't think he'll be back. But I do think Yabusele maybe could come back. Most likely not. But right now you're seeing, just different faces who can contribute for the Bulls, and that's what he's giving them right now.
You mentioned he's pretty much in the league because of that Olympic experience, playing with Wemby, playing with Rudy Gobert. How do you think that's helped him in the situation that he's in?
I mean, when you can play with real NBA talent on your team, it's going to go a long way. I think Nick Batum was also on that French team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think when you play with real NBA players, it's going to go a long way. And I think what you're seeing is the fact that this guy was given a chance because he played so well against NBA talent. That gold medal game, he played a very well played game as a role player. And when he was given his role in Philly last year, he averaged 11 points and 6 rebounds, almost 6 rebounds. And that in and of itself is going to earn you some minutes on a team. Now, he didn't play a whole lot for the Knicks, but he's playing a lot for the Bulls, and he's showing when he gets minutes, he can contribute just like anybody else in this league when given an opportunity, and he's really shined. And it's very nice to see him be able to revitalize his career the way he has over these last couple of years.
And you mentioned the Bulls having to make all these trades. One name that we're all sad that is gone, Ayo Dosunmu over on the Timberwolves. And this is looking like a great move for the Timberwolves, what he's been able to do. You look at what he's doing, his shooting split since joining the Timberwolves, 54% from the field, 45.5% from three, and perfect from the free throw line.
I love Ayo. I'm very sad he's gone, but I feel like it had to be done. Mm-hmm. It's not because I wanted him to be gone. It's just the Bulls, they were headed in a different direction. And when you're headed in a different direction, sometimes you need to make moves that are not going to make a franchise happy. I think it's possible Ayo could come back in the summer. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he says, you know what? I love Chicago. I see no reason for me not to come back. I can still get a nice, friendly deal with them, and he can come back. Now, right now, I really think he's just playing phenomenal basketball, and he's been playing phenomenal basketball all season long. He's a Sixth Man of the Year candidate for a reason. One of the best six men in the league. He provided 21 points in that win against Atlanta, in that absolute blowout win against Atlanta. And, he is a heart, hustle, and muscle guy. He's going to play great defense. He's going to shoot the three well. He's going to attack the basket because he's not afraid to go to the rim. And that's what you get with a guy like that. And I think he's going to be huge for Minnesota in the playoffs. He's going to add depth to their rotation that they desperately need, especially at the guard position. He very well may be their starting point guard in the playoffs. It's possible. Now, I expect Dante DiVincenzo will probably stay in that role. But don't be surprised if Ayo Dosunmu starts a couple of playoff games for the Minnesota Timberwolves come playoff time. I don't think it would be a surprise if he did.
Ayo's transition offense is really his strength. How do you see that working out, especially with other great stars on that team like Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert?
I think it'll work fine. I mean, Anthony Edwards is a guy who can run. They have a lot of guys who can run, and I think it'll be just fine. When you're putting up the amount of points that they put up, especially against a team like Atlanta, who's not the best team in the world, but still, they're still an NBA team, and 138 points is no laughing matter. That's really a big contribution. It's just, we see what Ayo can do, and when Ayo makes a good defensive play, he's always one of the first players running down the floor. He doesn't
hustle
take
guy.
it.
Hustle
He's a hustle guy, and that's Chicago. That's what he brought to the court. He brought it to Morgan Park. He brought it to Illinois. He brought it. He brings it to the Bulls. He brings it to Minnesota. And I'm very proud that he's able to contribute to a team, and he's going to be able to contribute to a playoff team that not only makes the playoffs. Let's not forget they've made the conference finals 2 years in a row.
True.
So they're no slouch of a team, and they can definitely go a long way in these playoffs if all goes well for them. Remember, it's all about matchups, and matchups are going to be key. But I think that they match up well with a lot of teams, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they perform.
One player who is benefiting from a trade, not a player who was traded, but someone who's benefiting from a trade is Jarrett Allen on the Cavs from the James Harden trade. How have you seen him elevate his game since that trade?
Well, one thing I know about James Harden, he loves to get his center involved. I remember Clint Capella very well being one of the more used centers in the league on the pick and roll. And Jarrett Allen is, I think he's gotten a 20 and 10 game the first two games that Harden's been there. And I think it's going to not necessarily continue every game, but he's going to be a huge factor on this team going forward. And Jarrett Allen already has been. He's one of the more productive centers in the NBA. And I think we're going to see him continue to get more touches because he's going to have those pick and rolls with Harden. And I think it's going to go a long way for him. And I think that you're seeing a more dynamic Cavs team because of that. James Harden adds a whole different dynamic to that team. Now, the question is, can Jarrett Allen continue this in the playoffs? Can James Harden continue his contributions in the playoffs? Because we know Harden does a disappearing act in the playoffs. Let's just hope he doesn't do that in Cleveland this time. Jarrett Allen's a really good contributor to a basketball team. You got him, you got Evan Mobley, but Jarrett Allen's just really somebody who's been contributing the last few games incredibly. He had his first 40-point game, I believe, of his career. And, when you're contributing the way he is, don't take your foot off the gas pedal. Keep running plays for him, pick and rolls for him, and things will work out. And, if I'm a Cavs fan, I'm very happy with the way things are going. It's just my only concern would be, with the acquisition of James Harden, is he going to be able to step up in the playoffs? Because he's never been able to do that in the major spotlight. Every time he's had a major game. I remember that Houston game. They missed 27 threes in a row.
Wow.
27.
Wow.
You can't have that in the playoffs. You can,
no
especially
way.
No. And so you hope it doesn't happen to him again in similar fashion. and that James Harden can finally help a team get to the, to an NBA championship or at least an NBA Finals. Let's see what he can do, because he's been there once before with the 2012 Oklahoma City Thunder, 2011, 2012 Oklahoma City Thunder. He was a role player back then. Harden's not a role player anymore. He's one of the main contributors. So let's see what he can do as a main contributor, because they're going to need him to. They're going to need him to step up in ways that he has not been able to in the past.
Did you see James Harden and Donovan Mitchell fitting together when that trade happened?
It could, and my main concern is that, even the Cavs admitted they have a 2-year window. And I don't think this is their last major acquisition, because I think LeBron's coming back next year. I think LeBron's going to finish his career in Cleveland. So you've got this team now, that's assembled. It's a very good team. Now they're taking a step back because they won 64 games last year. They're taking a step back compared to last year. They've been more injured this year, so I understand that. The loss of Ty Jerome hurt a bit, but now they have Dennis Schroeder. Now they've got James Harden. They have an upgraded point guard. They have their upgraded backup point guard. I think you're going to see them make a push in the playoffs, because as much as I like a team like Detroit, they haven't been battle-tested nearly enough, I feel. And, Oklahoma City was battle-tested when they got to the finals. They were battle-tested. Indiana, had gotten there. The Knicks had some battle-tested. They just fell short. Boston Celtics, totally battle-tested. They're going to be a juggernaut in the playoffs, especially if Tatum comes back. The question becomes, where does Cleveland fall on that bunch of Eastern Conference teams, and can they compete? And can Harden step up where he needs to step up? That's going to be the big question. What's really going to be interesting is, what happens the year after if LeBron comes back. Now, we're not there yet. Main focus today is, what does James Harden bring to the table, and can he bring it when the chips are down?
What do you think? Can he?
I can't say he can, because he hasn't done it yet.
True.
I don't know. I want to believe. I'm a big James Harden fan. One of the best scorers in NBA history. 36 points per game in an NBA season is no joke.
No.
I mean, that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. It's just, I want to see him do better. I do, because I don't want this to be his legacy of just, he goes from team to team and complains, and then he leaves when things aren't going his way. And then, he just disappears when they need him the most. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see him step up in a way where I know he can and be the James Harden that he is. He's a top 75 player all the time, but you got to play like it. And he hasn't played like it in the playoffs.
We'll see what happens going forward. Should be an exciting race there in the Eastern Conference now with James Harden on the Cavs.
It definitely will be, because this is the West, you can argue, is wide open. The East, you can argue, is wide open. But I would say the East is more wide open than the West this year, because I would say there's probably maybe 2 or 3 teams, maybe 2 teams in the West that can go to the finals. In the East, I think there's 4. You got Cleveland, Boston, the Knicks. I'll throw Detroit in there still, because they're the number 1 team. But, I really think it's more wide open in the East this year than it's ever been. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens going forward.
What was the topic of discussion this week on Running with the Bulls?
We talked, the last episode we did was, we're doing one on Friday. We're going to discuss a little bit more about, we got a lot coming up. We're going to talk about who to watch for the Bulls as, we get near the draft. We're going to talk a little more about the new acquisitions, what we like, what we don't like. And, just talk, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what we'd like to see coming up in free agency, what we'd like to see from the Bulls, because we're looking ahead now. We know we're not going to probably make the play-in. I mean, that's it's not done, but I don't expect the Bulls to make the play-in this time. I expect them to miss that and just go for a top 10 pick, and that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. This is a great draft. Go get a good player in the draft and keep building on what you can. And that's where we're at right now. And that we'll record that at probably 4:30 on Friday, and that should be up by dinner time on Friday night.
Make sure you all listen. Josh Sklare, co-host of Running with the Bulls with Adam Shalafu, who was on episode number 1. This has been NBA Stock Watch. 5 players after the deadline who have benefited from a trade or were traded and stock will rise. Well, make sure you comment below on if you agree with Josh and what he thinks, and any other players who might have benefited from a trade or moving forward as well. Make sure you like and subscribe to the video. And Josh, I appreciate you coming on tonight, man.
Very happy to be here and happy to continue to be on later down the road.
We will get you on, man. All right. Enjoy everyone's week and enjoy the NBA games.